Yes, Father. I'm listening.
Do not be proud of the honor to which you are called today. Fear it. From now on, the path to salvation will be all the more difficult for you.
Yes, Father.
Learn to be humble. Humility is the greatest gift I can wish for you. Listen to others, the wise and experienced men around you. Try to learn from them. Remember, the truly great man is small within himself and cares nothing for renown.
Yes, Father. You know the anguish I used to feel thinking of this day. But I'm not afraid anymore. For some time now I felt at peace, and I realize how I must use my power. It seems so simple, so beautiful. I can invite truly wise men to come to me, great geniuses, great artists, and I can humbly ask for their help. They will create the monuments of my reign. Isn't that what the rulers did in ancient times? And I will become a better man.
With the help of God, in fear of God, serving God. Now, make an act of contrition.
Oh God, I'm heartily sorry.
Ego te absolvo in nomine Patris et Filii.
C'è una circostanza che spiega lo stato d'animo con cui mi accingo oggi a condurre insieme a tutti voi questa difficile e dolorosa inchiesta, che ha il compito di stabilire se il nostro sovrano è per noi ancora nella condizione di governare questa nostra infelice, sfortunata, disprezzata, derisa e tormentata Baviera, senza tradire l'ostinata fiducia del suo popolo. La circostanza alla quale alludevo è che io sono uno dei pochissimi ministri rimasti in carica senza alcuna interruzione dal lontano marzo 1864. Dal giorno cioè che pieni di illusione e di speranze ci vide riuniti ad applaudire il nostro giovane principe che veniva incoronato e assumeva il comando del paese.
Secretary of the Treasury. And now the ambassadors. Their Excellencies, the ambassadors of Prussia and Austria. Excuse me, Your Highness. His Majesty is almost ready. Very well.
Thank you.
Your Majesty, the king would like to see you.
Champagne.
All right.
Io vorrei ricordare agli onorevoli colleghi il nostro stupore quando al primo consiglio convocato da Sua Maestà ci sentimmo dire che l'unico provvedimento da prendere necessario e urgentissimo era quello di rintracciare immediatamente il maestro Wagner per convincerlo con ogni mezzo a trasferirsi nel nostro paese.
What is all this?
These are the reports from the police officials I sent to find Mr. Wagner, sire.
Police? Why did you employ the police?
I am not a detective, Your Majesty, and Mr. Wagner is difficult to find. He is not in Munich, not in Vienna, not in Neuchâtel, but he was in all those places up to a few moments before the arrival of our officials who went to look for him. As Your Majesty can see from report number 4, we have word that Mr. Wagner is traveling to Stuttgart, but I'm waiting for confirmation.
Confirmation from whom? From some other policeman? I thought I had made myself clear. I do not wish to arrest Wagner. In all humility, I want to beg him to honor me with a visit, as I'm convinced that the presence of a great poet and composer like Richard Wagner could be of invaluable help and prestige for us. It's not a police official who should be sent to deliver my invitation. The maestro is surely and rightly incited. That's why he doesn't wish to be found.
If my information is correct, it is not our police officials Wagner is fleeing, Your Majesty. It is his creditors.
Nonsense. If Wagner is in Stuttgart, I will go personally and offer my apologies and my invitation.
I must remind Your Majesty that our foreign minister most warmly urges Your Majesty to visit Bad Ischl. Not only are the Emperor of Austria and the Empress Elizabeth there, but also the Crown Prince of Prussia, the Tsarevna, and...
Does our foreign minister fail to realize that our friendship with Richard Wagner is far more important than alliance with all the ground heads on holiday at Bad Ischl?
I'm afraid he does not realize that, sire.
Try to explain it to him, and let him know that I won't move from here until Richard Wagner has been found.
If that is the case, sire, I promise to solve the problem myself. It is only a question of price, believe me.
Let's try not to make any further mistakes. Wagner will be given a letter from me and a gift.
I should perhaps have been more explicit, sire. I agree. A gift is required. Now, as for Your Majesty's visit to Bad Ischl, we will...
About my future as an empress. So as you can see, I'm considering a new career as a circus rider. Have you changed?
Ma cousine?
How long has it been since we saw each other?
5 years? No, more. 5 years and 6 months.
You have a very good memory.
Grazie, a domani. Mi dispiace di non essere stata presente alla tua incoronazione, ma ero... Dov'ero? Fammi pensare.
Il tuo ambasciatore ha detto che eri a letto malata.
No, non era vero, anzi affatto, stavo per venire. Ma poi l'idea di tutti quei parenti da incontrare mi fece cambiare rotta.
Anch'io, sai, ho cambiato rotta stasera.
Davvero?
Sì, stavo per andare a cena quando ho saputo che tu eri qui.
Chi te l'ha detto?
Il mio aiutante di campo, lui sa sempre tutto di tutti. Sapeva che avresti disertato il dinner ufficiale di stasera, dandoti malata come al solito. E sapeva anche dove ti trovavi. E così sono venuto qui a cercarti.
Dandoti malato come me, immagino. certo.
Yes, you have changed indeed. You're more handsome. The most handsome king in Europe. That's not much of a compliment. Did you come to greet me or to spy on me?
I don't know. Both. And you gave me an excuse to avoid the dinner. I'm not used to official gatherings yet. I suppose it takes training. But you too.
Oh, with me things are different. I escape whenever I feel like it, under everyone's nose.
Ma lo sai che è vero? Me l'avevano detto, mi somigli sempre di più. Non trovi, mon cousin?
Non lo so. Anche se mi piacerebbe. E a te?
Perché no? Anche a me. Vada pure in albergo, contessa Ferenc. Non ho bisogno di niente. Ho chi mi accompagna.
Bene, maestra.
Vero? Però non ho voglia di tornare subito a casa.
Come vuoi.
Mi faccio rapire da te.
Certo.
Un cambiamento, come qualsiasi cambiamento, trae in inganno. Posti nuovi, facce nuove, nuove abitudini da prendere. Insomma, ce n'è abbastanza perché una donna, curiosa per natura come sono io, si sentisse appagata. Non sentivo neppure nostalgia della mia famiglia, nei primi tempi. Avevo tante cose da fare, un marito da amare, prima di accorgermi che del mio amore non sapeva che cosa farsene e ne cercava uno altrove. Una suocera da conquistare, prima di accorgermi che in realtà era una donna odiosa, che mi toglieva anche il diritto di educare i figli. I miei figli, che messi in mano a istitutori, generali, preti, diventavano anche loro degli estranei. Finché improvvisamente scopri che la casa che ti ha ospitata è in realtà un palazzo tetro e sinistro. Non riesci più a capire come hai fatto a restare chiusa là dentro per 10 anni. Che orrore. Ti senti tradito, come la farfalla che entra in una casa attratta dalla luce e ci viene rinchiusa. Io me ne sono accorta all'improvviso, come se mi risvegliassi da un lungo sonno. E mi sono ammalata di tristezza. Finché un giorno sono partita.
Madeira, Corfu, Greece, Italy. Kennst du das Land, wo die Zitronen blühen? I still protect myself by running away. They say I'm eccentric, but they said that even before, when it became clear I hated that prison Hofburg, when it became clear I really could not bear a husband, always in uniform, always going to war. Whatever I do or say, they criticize me. So why shouldn't I do as I please?
Everyone has always spoken to me about you with great admiration.
Yes. When I visit the hospitals, the wounded soldiers cheer me and cry. I carry off official visits very well when I only have to be beautiful and charm someone. Just as you are supposed to do here. Whom are you to charm? The Tsar? I hear they want you to marry his daughter.
I've heard that too. But I don't want to marry yet. I'm only 19.
I was 16 when I married. And now they say I was too young, that's why I soon became bored. They say I have many lovers, even among my footmen. What do you think? Is it true?
I think all men must fall in love with you.
Very kind, but not an answer. Is it true or not?
I've never heard it said.
You won't answer? All right. I shall ask you another question. Is what they say about you the truth?
What have they said to you?
That you never have had a woman.
I'm a Catholic.
Is that the reason? They also say you like to be alone. That you despise the people around you. That you go riding at night. They call you the moonlight lover. I do the same. But I don't believe I'm Siegfried.
I never thought I was Siegfried. Not till tonight. Do you know, the only time Siegfried feels fear? When he first meets a woman.
Thank you. Gentlemen.
Ma cousine?
I don't like her.
Who?
The Tsarevna. You shan't marry her. I forbid it.
I obey. Need only command me, I shall always obey.
Careful. I might take you seriously.
Oh, no. You always joke with me.
You don't understand. You're very handsome, but not very quick-witted.
That's why I need you.
Apparently not. You're leaving tomorrow.
I must.
If it stops snowing in 3 days, we have a full moon. I'll be alone. We can go riding in the night. Will you come with me? What is your pressing business in Munich? Who is waiting for you there? I shall ask our Secret Service. You're keeping something from me.
When I took over the Secretariat from Theoflim and became aware of the seriousness of the situation, I was horrified. I sent a memorandum to the King, who was away from Munich, telling him that a single performance of Tristan cost more than the maintenance of an entire battalion. I received no reply.
Oh, per carità. Questa casa non va assolutamente bene per me. È tutta da arredare. Le tende vanno cambiate. Voglio un altro pianoforte. E poi molti mobili devono ancora arrivare da Vienna in sostituzione di quelli che non mi piacciono.
Non manca nulla. Mi sembra tutto anche troppo bello.
Troppo bello come sarebbe? Che cosa vuol dire troppo bello? Niente.
What do you mean? Nothing can be too beautiful in the place I'm going to work. Am I supposed to be an outcast sleeping on a straw mattress?
I detest everything mediocre, less than the best. I must have the best if I am to work. I need even more security. Uncertainty about the future destroys my nerves. I become ill. I'm unable to write a single note. What's the use of dreaming about performances of my works when I'm dead? I want my music performed now, when I say, as I say.
Of course. But now this isn't a dream, it's a marvelous reality.
It's a reality. No, you're right. It is marvelous. There's this house, my stipend, and Tristan about to go into rehearsal. Poor Tristan, he's waited 6 years. And soon we'll have the theater I've always dreamed of. The King's given me a free hand. I've written December. Yes, he'll be down here with the plans. He's going to have his work cut out for him. But we must start engaging the singers for Tristan at once. Do you think Maya will be free? If not, who would you...
I hope he isn't free. Another singer might be better. For some time now, he's... Forgive me, but are you sure there'll be no objections to me? After all, Munich has some quite able conductors. If someone's brought in from outside, there could be objections.
I have no objections, and that's all that matters. The King has given me a free hand, I told you. He embraced me and almost knelt at my feet when I first met him. I was moved, deeply moved. A strange boy. I'm eager to present you to him. If he ever comes back, he said he'd be away only 2 or 3 days. That's 3 weeks ago. The court authorities take advantage of his absence. They stop paying bills. The King must authorize the payments. They say it's grotesque. He is like a young god descended from Olympus, but he is surrounded by stupid, suspicious boors, the pack of them. I won't make a single friend there. You must come stay with me. So, that's decided, isn't it? Come upstairs, I'll show you the rest of the house. You don't mind, do you?
No, of course not. But the children will disturb you.
Nonsense! The house is large. They won't be a nuisance.
Child will soon be here.
Non respiri con me i teneri profumi della notte. Oh, con quanta dolcezza accarezzano l'essere nostro. Misteriosi vengono a noi nell'aria e nessuna domanda mi sale più alle labbra se mi abbandono al loro incanto. Ugual magia mi ha legato a te, mia cara, il giorno in cui il mio sguardo si posò su te la prima volta. Seppi cioè che non avrei più domande senza risposta. I miei occhi ti avevano veduta e il mio cuore aveva capito.
Vedi, la poesia mi piace, sì, la capisco. Non sento la mancanza della musica.
Ma la poesia di Wagner vale per la sua musica. E la sua musica vale per la sua poesia. L'una non può esistere senza l'altra. E da questa portentosa fusione nasce un nuovo linguaggio che riesce a farsi intendere da tutti quanti, in ogni parte del mondo, da tutti quanti. Un linguaggio che può anche divulgare le idee. Io non so spiegarmi, però io so che il regalo più grande che si possa fare al popolo è quello di arricchire il suo spirito.
Mon cousin, che cosa vuoi fare della tua Baviera? Una nazione di musicisti?
Vuoi prendermi in giro? Sono cose importanti, almeno per me. A Wagner io debbo il coraggio e la fede, diciamo, di poter fare qualcosa nella vita, di poter essere utile a qualcuno nel mondo, sia pure nel modesto ruolo di intermediario. Debbo tutto ciò a lui, come debbo a te.
Cos'è che mi devi?
Ti devo la felicità di questi ultimi giorni, passati aspettando il momento di rivederti. Una così pura, completa felicità. Prometti di aiutarmi sempre, di non abbandonarmi. Vuoi?
D'accordo. Sei un bambino, Ludwig. Anche un po' pazzo. Lo siamo tutti in famiglia, me compresa. Io ne sono convinta.
Prometti che non mi lascerai mai. Solo questo, che potrò vederti se avrò bisogno di te, anche solo un momento. Ma un momento che sia mio soltanto.
D'accordo. Sebbene non vedo come ciò possa avvenire dal momento che tu stai a Monaco e io a Vienna.
Ti raggiungerò dovunque tu sia. Anche se non vieni mai a trovarmi, io so che vai spesso a Possenhofen. Vero? E d'ora in avanti, senti, ma io so quando tu devi venire. Per il Tristano di Wagner. L'opera che abbiamo deciso di mettere in scena. Sono 6 anni che aspetta. La farò rappresentare io, gliel'ho promesso. Tu devi vederla. È meravigliosa. Riuscirai a capire tutto ciò che ho cercato di dirti. E ti farà capire anche me. E che cosa mi è successo in questi pochi giorni. Poi starai un momento con me. E mi dirai solo: ho capito. Sai dove ti aspetterò? Ti rammenti 5 anni fa? L'isola delle rose. La bandiera alta sul pennone significa t'aspetto. Te lo ricordi? Vieni. Devi promettermelo. Tristano è come un oceano di armoniosi suoni nel quale si sprofonda come in un abbraccio.
Comodo.
Elisabeth.
Sophie.
Dove sei stata?
Siete arrivati tutti? Quando?
Tardi. La contessa Ferenc ha detto che ti eri coricata da poco e che non poteva disturbarti. Erano i tuoi ordini, ha detto.
E tu stai a sentire la Ferenc. È una stupida. Sì, infatti non mi sentivo bene. Per così dire.
Ma dove sei stata? Dimmi.
Avevo l'insonnia e sono uscita a cavallo.
Da sola?
Ma certo. Sì, insomma, col palafreniere. Va bene? Su, vieni, aiutami a spogliarmi. Stai proprio bene. Sei molto bella.
Davvero?
E qui, in questi giorni, dovrai essere anche più bella del solito.
E perché?
C'è qualcuno che ti aspetta con ansia.
Me?
Mm? Ha ritardato la sua partenza di 15 giorni, pensa, solo per rivederti.
Di chi parli? Chi è?
E tu chi vorresti che fosse? Mm?
Non lo so.
È bello, è re. Sarà tuo marito.
Ma chi?
Ludwig. Sì, certo. Nostro cugino. Ludwig.
Ludwig.
Her Majesty regrets. She is not well this morning and will not go riding. Her Majesty asked me to invite Your Majesty to dine with her this evening at 7 o'clock in her private apartments.
Thank Your Majesty for me, Countess Ferenczi. I shall be delighted to accept. Cosa rara. Ma tante,
Your Majesty?
Marie, Karl Theodor.
Your Majesty.
Sophie. Mathilde. Nene. Maximilian. I wasn't aware you had come to Badish with your whole family.
Your Majesty knows Elizabeth and her whims. Suddenly she missed her brothers and sisters, and we all had to rush to cheer her up.
You're looking very well, my
Thank you, Your Majesty. The air is so good in Badish. I haven't heard from your mother for a long time. How is she?
Mon cousin?
One of my couriers was going to Schlossberg, and I knew that in a greenhouse there...
Oh. What a lovely scent. Sophie, smell them.
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
haven't seen you for a long time.
It's a great pleasure to be back again.
How have you been?
Fine, thank you.
Oh.
There has not been such a brilliant gathering at Bad Ischl for many years, I believe. Elizabeth tells me the Tsarevna is here, and the Crown Prince of Prussia. The Emperor will join us in a few days. N'est-ce pas, Elizabeth?
Yes. Yes, Franz sent me a telegram. He'll be here as soon as possible.
Quite a family reunion, isn't it? Your Majesty was right to mention the matter to Elizabeth. Sophie's presence here will seem just a normal holiday.
Sophie? Yes. Sophie adores Wagner's music almost as much as you do, mon cousin. I'm sure the two of you have many things to talk about.
Unfortunately, I must put off that pleasure. I only came here to say goodbye. I must be in Munich tomorrow morning. I leave tonight. Now, ma tante, will you excuse me?
Ludwig?
Thank you for the happiness of these last few days. I will be expecting you, even if you never gave me a promise. You must come for Tristan. When you hear Wagner's opera, you'll understand everything I've been trying to say. You'll understand me too. What's happened to me these past few days. You must come. You must.
L'andata in scena del Tristano di Richard Wagner, avvenuta nel giugno del 1865, costò alle casse dello Stato una vera fortuna e a quella spesa sconsiderata andrebbero aggiunte le spese sostenute privatamente dal sovrano per ricevere degnamente l'imperatrice Elisabeth, che invece decise di non intervenire, lasciando così chiaramente intendere a tutti la sua disapprovazione.
will wait for me. I hate disappointing, arousing false hopes.
I had no hopes. You didn't come to the theater, and I was sure you wouldn't come here. It was a triumph. You should have seen it. The audience applauded. For hours, it seemed. When Wagner appeared on stage, he said, I wish I could remember the exact words. He said, like Tristan and Isolde would drink.
How much did it all cost?
What?
Everything. Wagner, the conductor's family, a house for Wagner, for the conductor, for his family.
Why do you ask me this? What does it matter? It was a triumph.
Triumphs are quickly forgotten, or else later on they arouse the fiercest criticism. But here criticism started even before the triumphs.
You, of all people, worry about the malicious criticism of the public?
Yes, when it's deserved. What is your ambition? To go down in history thanks to Richard Wagner? Like my mother-in-law with her ridiculous painters? If your Richard Wagner is as great as you say, then he doesn't need you. Your pathetic friendship only gives you the illusion of having created something. Just as I give you the illusion of love. You cannot stay alone. You want me to be your impossible lover, to justify yourself somehow. You need help I cannot give you. Mary Sophie.
But I've never loved another woman than you.
Love is a duty also. And your duty is to face reality. Forget your dreams. Rulers like us have nothing to do with history. We're only a display. History will forget us. Unless someone makes us seem important by assassinating us.
That's the music the German people like, not mine. Not a day goes by now without some attack on me in the Munich papers.
Stop reading them. I should give orders to keep the newspapers away from you.
You should forbid me to leave the house as well. People insult me in the street.
I really would like to keep you prisoner, because then I would know you were working. For yourself and for me.
Sometimes I wonder if my strength will last.
I must at least have faith in you.
I think sometimes it's life itself I fear. Or life as it was before I met Your Majesty. Now, as Your Majesty can see, we've done away with the boxes. The house is like an amphitheater. The audience is one ideal community with no divisions or rank. And the orchestra is well below the stage, but I can show you that more clearly in another drawing. And the lighting is entirely new. The spectator will be able to concentrate on the stage. We must be able to plunge the house into total darkness.
How many seats will there be?
1,500. Yes, 1,500, perhaps 17. Semper will go into all that later. I should like to have at least 2,000. But the cost... No doubt they'll finally decide on a much smaller theater or cancel the whole project.
Why do you say that?
Because that's the way it will end, I feel sure. Just think of the talk the performance of Tristan caused. I can imagine the comments when the construction of a new theater is announced. They'll all behave as if they're being robbed. They'll want to arrest me. It's impossible to work for such an ignorant public. Great thinkers have always acknowledged the importance of music to a nation, but here they talk only of waste of money. They count every pfennig, so much for the tenor, for the soprano, the orchestra.
Such criticism isn't sincere. They have another purpose.
Bloody stupidity. Forgive me, sire, but Tristan's success gave me such joy, such hope. Now these vulgar attacks are ruining everything. They're affecting your Majesty, too. You're troubled, sad, without enthusiasm.
No, that's not it. How can you think that? If you weren't here with me, I would be in despair. You, my salvation, my only comfort. I'm putting all my strength into the building of this theater. All my love.
Forgive me for disturbing you, but it's growing dark and poor Fanny didn't dare come light the lamps. She asked me to help.
Oh no. You must forgive us.
May I also have the honor of serving tea?
Yes, thank you.
How are you today, Maestro? Were you able to rest a bit? Milk, Your Majesty?
Thank you. Have you been unwell?
No.
Why wasn't I informed? Thank you. I could have waited until tomorrow.
I'm quite well.
That is not true.
Anyone with sensitive nerves like me has their ups and downs. I've had headaches for years.
This was not just a headache. I don't see why His Majesty shouldn't know the state of your health.
Please, I want you to tell me the truth about the Maestro's illness.
I've told you the truth.
No. Well, I can speak as someone who's lived in daily communication with the Maestro only for a short time, but my impressions are the same as my husband's, who is the Maestro's great friend and collaborator. It's true, the Maestro has always suffered from nervous strain, but recently it has got worse. In addition to his headaches, he has insomnia and, well, I'm quite concerned. But I think medicine can do little in such cases. The real reason for the anxiety must be found and eradicated.
I've told the Maestro not to worry about those candle sheets. They're not worth it.
Forgive me, sir, but it's not that criticism which upsets the Maestro. It's not the uncertainty of the theater project either. He's worried about the future, about his inability to settle a painful situation, which has haunted him for too long. Some debts made in the past, which... Forgive me, liebe Meister. His Majesty asked my opinion. I must give it to him honestly.
All those worries are past now. I'm here.
Of course, Your Majesty. But I must admit that the Maestro is right. When one is a guest, one cannot enjoy absolute security.
But the Maestro is not a guest. He receives a stipend like any collaborator. Like the most valued of collaborators.
Of course. Why are we discussing such things?
Oh, because there are things you mention often and think of constantly. Why not explain them openly to His Majesty?
Madame von Bülow.
One of these days I must meet Madame von Bülow privately. She will become my ally. She will tell me how I can set my friend's mind at rest. Please, please. Stay. I know the way. Give me the pleasure of feeling I'm at home here.
I'll see His Majesty out. I can tell you now what the Maestro needs. The request he means to send to Your Majesty in a letter, I believe. So my husband told me. The maestro would like to have at his disposal a sum that would allow him to settle his old debts and feel confident about the future. Otherwise, he would prefer to leave Munich.
Oh, no.
He would require 200,000 gulden.
200,000?
Gulden. Part of the amount could be given him in cash and the rest in the form of interest in monthly payments.
I would have to ask for a loan from the state treasury. And it would have to be approved by Pfistermeister and von der Pforten. I'll send the maestro an answer.
They promise you heaven on earth, swear eternal friendship and love, and then what? Are these our great patrons of art? This half-witted boy, the latest lunatic in a family of lunatics.
He will give you everything you want. I know he will.
Oh, my darling, my darling. Darling Cosimo.
What sort of a country is this? A nation of policemen? Pfistermeister used the police to invite my guests, who are then followed, spied on by the police. And the letters my guests write and receive are brought to me like trophies. It's outrageous. It's outrageous!
These are normal precautions, sire. In this instance, they're all the more excusable, since Wagner is a foreigner, with a record as a revolutionary.
If Richard Wagner weren't an artist, he would be a saint. His genius has a moral, purifying quality. His art enlightens. It is an antidote to the evils and corruptions of our society. Richard Wagner's name will go down through centuries, because art is truth. What remains of an artist is not his weaknesses, which may shock you, but his work.
Your Majesty is right, of course. But, if I may say so, it would be very dangerous to allow the guardians of law and order to make exceptions. Their point of view is different from ours. For them, Richard Wagner is simply a man who squanders the taxpayers' money. Madame von Bülow is not a muse, but an adulteress. And her husband is a contemptible opportunist who pretends not to know about the relationship between his wife and Wagner in order to keep his position.
Oh, slander! Slander, slander!
No, it's the truth, as these letters clearly show. And Your Majesty must realize this. Wagner's detractors are perhaps insensitive to questions of art, but they are not liars. Mr. Wagner and the Bülows are in Your Majesty's antechamber. They would like to be received with the greatest urgency.
Show them in.
His Majesty the King will receive you at once.
Thank you.
Your Majesty advised me to ignore what the newspapers wrote about me. The criticisms, attacks, insinuations, the daily insults of the local press. I followed Your Majesty's advice. I've borne everything and I have remained silent. I would continue this silence if it concerned only me. But now it is something that does not only concern me.
Your Majesty, an article has appeared in the Volksbote, clearly stating that my wife is a mistress of Richard Wagner. I've challenged the editor to a duel.
All this is very serious, sire.
Yes, it is. It is indeed. But we are all in this plot together. Maestro von Bülow knows everything about his wife, but pretends not to, for fear of having to give up the profitable and distinguished position of conducting her lover's operas. And I, who also know everything, because my friend Wagner hides nothing from me. I, his advisor, his friend. Especially not such an important fact, which affects not only his private life, but also public opinion. I, the friend, admirer, and confidant, naturally want to help my beloved artist.
It's a hateful slander, Your Majesty. It's unforgivable, unforgivable. Only Your Majesty can help us and wipe it away. If Your Majesty were to write a letter to Mr. von Bülow, a simple letter expressing esteem and friendship, once that letter was published in the newspapers,
Lohengrin does battle to defend Elsa. But it's easier to fight a duel than to write a letter.
if it pleases Your Majesty, I have prepared a draft. My dear Mr. von Bülow, having had occasion to appreciate fully the noble and generous gifts of your most esteemed wife...
All right. All right. I'll understand. I'll copy it and have it delivered tomorrow.
Doesn't Your Majesty wish me to read the rest?
No, 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 it's not necessary. I'm sure it will do very well.
Sire, my gratitude.
It's no more than my duty. Wagner knows how highly I value true friendship.
His Majesty the King has instructed me to order you to leave Munich as quickly as possible. Here is His Majesty's message.
My dear friend, much as it grieves me, I must ask you to carry out the request made by Minister Lutz. My love for you will endure forever, and I beg you to keep forever your friendship for me. I could not act otherwise. Until death, your faithful Ludwig.
Non dire niente.
I can state that His Majesty the King of Bavaria has been afflicted by a certain mental instability since 1866, on the eve of our unfortunate participation in the war of that year. The position taken by our sovereign against the government, which proposed to maintain our alliance with Austria, gave rise to much discontent among the people.
His Majesty is not here. His Majesty is waiting, Your Highness.
Come in.
Your Majesty, His Royal Highness Prince Otto is here.
Are they angry?
They're waiting for me. They think you aren't here.
Let them wait. We have to go back to Munich tonight. And then tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow I leave for the front again.
Do you mind it very much?
Yes, I mind. I mind the filth and the smell and the screams of the soldiers in the hospitals when they operate without chloroform, because the supplies have run out.
What do they want me to do this time?
Go back to Munich. Oh, the king. Ludwig. Losing the war.
Look. The 4 quarters of the moon. Remember when we were children and went fishing at night?
Yes. And you were furious because I caught more than you did.
Because I was the king. I didn't want this war. I want everyone to know. They must realize that.
Yes.
What's wrong?
Oh, I don't know. My eyes sting. It must be because I can't sleep anymore. When I sleep, I dream that I can't sleep, that I can't close my eyes. And I lie there, asleep, but it's as if I were awake. My eyes are wide open, and they sting.
You're not well. Why don't you stay here with me, at Berg?
I can't. You know that. I have to go back. It would be dishonorable towards our allies, too. Well, they are our relatives, after all.
Our Prussian enemies are relatives also. We do everything in the family. Fight wars, marry, beget children. It's all incestuous, fratricidal. And we never know why.
Well, you're the king. If you didn't want the war, then you should have forbidden it.
I did. I'm doing everything possible to make my view clear. As far as I'm concerned, the war doesn't exist. Tell the generals, the king does not know the war exists. Who is there? Who is it?
It's me, sire, Falk.
Why aren't you at the castle? Who gave you permission to come out?
I thought your majesty wouldn't require me, so I...
A groom on duty is forbidden to leave the royal apartment. Don't you know that?
Yes, your majesty.
Nevertheless, you came here and you left your post.
I couldn't sleep.
Aren't you afraid the sentries will catch you?
I can hear them coming. I hide in the bushes.
Can you swim?
A little, sire. But I never go where I can't touch bottom. I come from the mountains.
Aren't you cold?
Yes, a little, sire.
Here, take this.
But it's a matter of the greatest urgency and importance. Captain Durkheim asks to be received by His Majesty.
Come in.
We have been defeated, sire. We have surrendered.
Did you suffer many losses?
No. We did not have many casualties. The enemy outnumbered us, and our troops became demoralized. Continuing the fight would have led to a useless massacre.
I'm glad it's over. And that it lasted such a short time.
7 weeks, Your Majesty. And they seemed an eternity to those who lived through them.
Do you have any news of my brother Otto?
The prince has come back to Munich. He is very depressed.
You are very fond of my brother, aren't you, Durkheim?
Yes, very fond.
Otto will be your king one day. Very soon. Because
His Highness Prince Otto is terribly unhappy. He's so young. Yet he seems to have burned his youth away without having lived it. His ambitions were stifled by disappointments. And he is filled with sadness and fear. He lives in a state of lonely anguish. He never sleeps more than 2 hours a night. He never rests. He has looked for happiness, in what is impossible. He wants security in what is outside the rules.
Why shouldn't he? The world around us is intolerably petty. Men dream only of material security and are prepared to give their lives to achieve it. I want to be free, free to seek happiness in the impossible. But unlike my brother, I try to suit my actions to my ideas. That's why I abandoned the stupid war I was unable to prevent. I'm not a coward. I hate falsehood. I want to live in truth.
Forgive me, sire, and allow a very ordinary man to express an opinion. Your Majesty says you want to live in truth. But I think what you mean is you want to live as a free man, following only your own tastes and instincts, without hypocrisy or lies. Am I right?
La verità, secondo me, non ha niente a che vedere con questa ricerca, diciamo così, dell'impossibile. Una libertà che sia privilegio di pochi non ha nulla in comune con la vera, autentica libertà. Quella libertà, cioè, che appartiene a tutti gli uomini e che ognuno di noi ha ragione, ha il diritto di avere. Viviamo in un mondo senza innocenti, dove nessuno ha il diritto di erigersi a giudice. Io sto parlando come a un amico. L'affettuosa benevolenza che Vostra Maestà mi ha sempre dimostrato quando eravamo entrambi più giovani mi dà il coraggio di sfogarmi, come può accadere fra due uomini. Sono un soldato che è stato lasciato solo sul campo di battaglia. Nel momento del pericolo e dell'amarezza, ma che non prova né disprezzo né rancore per il sovrano che lo ha abbandonato, bensì prova una profonda pietà. Il mio sovrano crede di aver fatto una scelta coraggiosa, ma si sbaglia se crede di poter trovare la felicità fuori delle regole e dei doveri dell'uomo. Chi ama davvero la vita, Maestà, non può permettersi la ricerca dell'impossibile, ma deve giocarla con infinita prudenza. Anche un sovrano, perché il grande potere di cui un sovrano dispone è pur sempre limitato nei confini del consorzio umano del quale fa parte egli stesso. Chi potrà mai seguirlo fuori da quei confini? Chi? Non potranno seguirlo certamente gli esseri umili, indifesi, che non hanno altra preoccupazione se non la ricerca di un po' di sicurezza. Non soltanto materiale, ma anche di carattere morale, e dei quali Vostra Maestà parlava con gran disprezzo. E allora avrà invece al suo seguito chi interpreta questa libertà come ricerca del piacere fuori da ogni costrizione morale. No, non può volere questo. Un seguito di servi abietti, di sfruttatori, di spacciatori di illusioni. No, non ci credo. Vostra Maestà non può gradire una simile genia, che approfitterebbe della sua generosità e non mirerebbe che a ingannarla. Ma è possibile che un essere tanto giovane, che ha tutta la vita davanti a sé, non sia tentato di trovare una diversa ragione alla propria esistenza? Anche se è una ragione estremamente difficile, perché è la ragione di vita degli esseri semplici, che accettano la mediocrità. Certo, ci vuole molto coraggio ad accettare la mediocrità a chi perseguisce ideali sublimi che non sono di questo mondo. Lo so benissimo.
ma è l'unica vera speranza di salvarsi da una solitudine che può anche essere immonda.
I must speak to my mother.
Oh, but Her Majesty is still asleep.
Wake her! Go on! Go! Quickly!
Her Majesty the Queen is awaiting Your Majesty.
I beg your pardon for waking you up at this hour, but there was something I had to tell you. Immediately. I've decided to marry.
Ludwig.
I was sure this would be good news for you. Aren't you even going to ask me who the woman of my choice is?
I was waiting for Your Majesty to inform me. I have complete faith in Your Majesty's judgment.
I want you to go at once to Possenhofen and ask Duchess Ludovica for the hand of Princess Sophie.
Sophie will be the ideal wife for you.
I've sent word to Father Hoffen asking him to come here. Please, receive him at once. And I want you to communicate my decision to him. And I want him to accompany you to Possenhofen, since Princess Sophie is a Catholic.
Ludwig.
Goodbye, madam.
My dressing gown, quickly. Quickly! Quickly! Oh, quickly! Tell them that as soon as Father Hoffman arrives, he's to be shown into my room. Yes.
But Father Hoffman is here.
Madam. Yes, Harold.
Have you seen my son?
Oh, yes, just now as I was leaving here. But he didn't say a word to me. He seemed very
happy. He is beside himself with joy. Ludwig is going to marry. He wished me to tell you. And he wants you to come with me to ask for the girl's hand. Now, this is correct, because the princess is Catholic, and the request of a Protestant mother would not be enough.
He means to marry?
Princess Sophie, the sister of Elizabeth. Isn't this wonderful news?
Ah, padre, mi sembra di uscire da un incubo. Che voi non avete fatto nulla per dissipare, a dire la verità. Prego, accomodatevi.
Grazie.
Certo, potrebbe essere una grande consolazione. Mi auguro che Sua Maestà abbia trovato un equilibrio stabile. Sono molti i giovani che stentano a trovare un equilibrio con se stessi, un'armonia dello spirito.
E l'ha trovato. Quel che conta è che l'ha trovato e si sposa.
Mi stupisce che Sua Maestà non mi abbia mai parlato di questa sua intenzione. Dicevo che mi auguro che abbia ponderato bene il passo che sta per fare, perché questa è una scelta non solamente per sé, ma anche per la compagna che, con la benedizione del Signore...
Basta così, padre Hoffman. L'importante è che i due si sposino e che il matrimonio avvenga il più presto possibile. È quello che tutti speravamo. Non è vero?
Certo, è una grande consolazione per tutti noi e per il popolo. Piuttosto ci vorrà la dispensa papale, dati gli stretti legami di parentela che uniscono i fidanzati.
Certo, certo. Ma non ci saranno difficoltà. Non credo proprio. Anche i genitori erano cugini.
Infatti si attribuisce a questo se nella casa dei Wittelsbach e in quella degli Hohenzollern ci sono stati casi molto dolorosi di anomalie. Ma a quanto mi risulta, la giovane Sophie gode perfetta salute e Sua Maestà il Re non ci ha mai dato occasione di preoccupazione. Sarà bene segnalare certe timidezze di Sua Maestà, certe sue ritrosie, perché Sophie possa essergli di aiuto, essere comprensiva.
Come le sue sorelle, Sofia imparerà presto che a una donna del suo rango non spettano soltanto i diritti e i privilegi, ma anche i doveri, moltissimi doveri.
Sophie, sei contenta?
Oh, sì, Dad. Sophie is really very beautiful.
Yes. These family reunions, Durkheim, are very, very tiring.
All my best wishes. I'm very, very pleased.
Oh, thank you, Otto. Bravo, Otto. You're always so sweet. Elizabeth. Sophie. Nene, Mathilde. Marie.
Elisa. My dear child.
Maman. I'm very pleased, too. Congratulations, mon beau-frère.
My dear Otto, you're always so sweet.
Everyone is pleased. And the station looked wonderful, all decked with flags. You didn't believe I would come. I didn't think I would either. Everything is always so complicated. I've been told, ma tante, that a great deal of work will be done here in the residence. So the old residence will become new, too. Who will see to it all? Sophie, assert yourself. But Sophie isn't like me. I can only say whether I like something or whether I dislike it. I really must drink something hot. Excuse me.
Thank you. I'll do it. Forgive me, but I'm terribly thirsty.
We're not going to live in the residence.
You aren't?
I mean, only for a short while. As little as possible. Until the new house is ready.
I thought you'd been introduced. What is all that?
It's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I would like to build a castle. You remember the Graswangtal? Above Obamagau? And there's another place I like almost as much. Perhaps even more. Herden Chiemsee. I haven't decided yet. We could go there together tomorrow. On horseback. You remember Bad Ischl? It's not a tiring ride. Not at all. And you could give me your advice.
Tomorrow I will not be here, unfortunately. I'm going on to Zurich. I only stopped to see Sophie and to give both of you Francis congratulations. And my own, of course.
In vista del matrimonio, Sua Maestà diede il via ai lavori per la costruzione di quei suoi maledetti castelli. Io mi presi l'incarico di far affrontare al sovrano quelle certe esperienze di cui si diceva egli fosse allora completamente digiuno.
No. È stato tutto così complicato. Mi hanno detto tante cose di voi, mi hanno fatto un'infinità di raccomandazioni.
Chi?
Dopo che Vostra Maestà ha mandato il suo aiutante di campo in teatro per invitarmi a cena, mi sono trovata di colpo al centro di un grosso affare di Stato. Carrozza chiusa, tendine abbassate. Mi hanno portato in un posto pieno di uffici.
E allora?
Volete saperlo? Siete curioso? Grazie. C'erano dei signori. Credo che uno venisse da parte dell'arcivescovo. Davvero indiscreto. E un altro invece da parte di Sua Maestà la Regina Madre. Oh mio Dio, Maestà! È tutto sempre così complicato quando ad un re viene la voglia di fare l'amore. Per noi attori è molto più semplice, basta un'occhiata. Un gesto così.
They told me this too, that you're very shy. And then they asked me all sorts of questions, even about my health.
They did?
It was indecent. Really. And they warned me to be discreet. Except with them, of course. They want to know what happens.
Will you tell them?
With your Majesty's permission, I'd love to lie to them. They're too curious. Too nosy. We could make love and say we didn't. Or we could not make love and say we did.
Yes, but we mustn't disappoint their curiosity. You must tell them things that will horrify them.
That you beat me, for example.
Will they believe you?
Your Majesty, I'm a great actress.
The funny thing is that you will go to them anyway and tell them everything that hasn't happened between us.
No. No.
That's what they'll pay you for.
No.
And that's what you'll do.
No. No, Your Majesty, no.
Yes.
No.
I'm certain. And why shouldn't you? After all, if you don't today, others will tomorrow. You think I don't know what's going on around me? I know. I'm surrounded by people who observe everything I do. Not to protect me, but to ruin me. I don't understand how they will achieve their aim, but I know this is their aim. All I can do is watch, fascinated, while they move silent and cautious. It's as if I were watching them set up their gallows from which they'll hang me.
No, Your Majesty, it's not true. Please, Your Majesty.
Go now, and make them pay you. Make them pay you handsomely. Go, madam. Prostitute.
Your Majesty, please, help me. Help me, please. Please. Your Majesty.
Help Madame Buljowski out and send her home.
Sono i gioielli che le regine di Baviera portano da 700 anni. Ma un regalo più bello io ti farò. È un segreto, non devi dirlo a nessuno. Ti farò conoscere Richard Wagner.
Our engagement is more exhausting than a military campaign. It's a real torment, which Sophie undergoes without making any complaint. She's the perfect fiancée. And she loves your music very much. You know what she's afraid of at this moment, my dear friend? She's afraid I will ask her to sing for you. She's afraid of your criticism, not only as a singer, but also as a fiancée. She has the notion that by asking you to meet her, I was submitting her for your approval. When will you come back?
Soon, sire, soon. And not at night in secret. I shall return with my wife and my new opera for the new theater.
It will repay me for so much bitterness, so much loneliness.
Sophie's sweet. She's pretty and docile. For the first time, I've seen true love for your majesty in someone's eyes.
I have decided to postpone the wedding. A month. Perhaps two. I wish the wedding day were past. I can already hear the crowds yelling. Banquets, the ceremonies, here in the church. It's a nightmare. It keeps me awake at night. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins from all over Europe. Kisses, handshakes, congratulations, embraces.
You can open your heart to me, sire. My affection for you is just the same as the first day you called me to Munich, rescuing me from poverty and welcoming me with open arms. I have not forgotten that. I came here at once now because I realized your majesty needed me. Forget all the things that have happened. One can betray friends, even lie to them, but still love them. Be magnanimous. Try to forgive. I know that no one will give you the advice I could because whatever I say comes from a very deep, very sincere feeling. What is depressing you, my friend? I understand many things, but I cannot help if you don't ask me to.
Bon voyage.
Adieu.
My name is Richard Hornig. I have been in His Majesty's service for 10 years. I entered the King's household very suddenly. Then His Majesty, in one of his moments of anger, chased his footman Falk away. And I was ordered to take his place. In all my years of serving the King, I have never betrayed his trust, and I have no intention of doing so today. Besides, nothing in the King's behavior differs from what everyone used to consider behavior worthy of a sovereign's dignity.
Wait here. Take this. Can you hoist this flag?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Good. Very good.
I used to do this in the army, Your Majesty.
This is the first time I've seen you.
I've only been in service a few days, Your Majesty.
What did you do before?
Worked on a farm, sire. Taking care of the horses.
Light the fire.
Advance, Your Majesty.
Take off your gloves. What are you waiting for?
Has Your Majesty any orders for me?
You can sleep here tonight, if you want.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Elsa? What Elsa are you talking about? Who is this Elsa?
Hi, Mercer. Ludwig doesn't even like my name. He has never called me Sophie. It's been Elsa, from the very beginning. Like the heroine of Lohengrin.
But all lovers change the names of their fiancés.
Lovers.
We've always known that Ludwig is a bit eccentric.
Yes, I know. But I am in love with him. And it makes me suffer when he leaves me all alone at the ball they gave in her honor, never asking me to go out with him, coming to see me less and less often. So I spend all day shut up in the house for fear of missing one of his visits. Then, when he does come, he hardly speaks to me. Sometimes he comes and spends the night outside the gate and leaves a bunch of flowers for me, without a note or anything, as if he were putting them on a grave. And I do feel dead and buried. I felt that when he insisted on introducing me to Wagner. Everyone looks at me with pity, just pity.
But it's your fault, too. Why do you stay shut up in the house? Waiting till he condescends to visit you? Go out! Go on with your normal life. Go to the theater if you feel like it. Travel and enjoy yourself. Show him that you are an independent person with many interests of your own. That will attract him. Make him want you.
He doesn't want me. He doesn't care a thing about me. And you know that very well. Why? Why didn't you tell me he was in love with you?
No!
No.
What makes you say such things? It's not true! It's not true!
It is true. People have told me, but I had already realized it by myself. Too late, unfortunately. And if you want to know the truth, they told me that you too.
Who? Who told you that? Oh, don't be quiet, you silly child!
Come. Come, look at me. Don't believe the nonsense people tell you.
I'm not the one you must fear. Not I, nor any other woman. Ludwig. The danger with Ludwig, if anything, it happens to many young men. Didn't you know that? To all, I think, when they're so young and so sensitive. Most of the time they get over these things with help. I'm very fond of Ludwig. Perhaps because we are very much alike, not only physically. He has many faults, many qualities. He's very vulnerable. You can save him, Sophie, you must. But you have to be very strong. Be close to him. Don't allow any further delays of the wedding. If he doesn't speak, then you must speak. If he neglects you, then give him the impression that you neglected him first. I shall tell our father he must write Ludwig and set the date immediately. No more postponements.
I do not want to marry Sophie.
It's too late.
No, it's not too late. And it wouldn't be the first time an engagement was broken.
A king cannot give scandal, cannot expose himself to horrible and justified criticism. They will be merciless.
And this is the reason why I should be merciless towards Sophie?
The Lord will be merciful to her. Leave it to him.
I am deceiving her.
You knew that from the beginning.
She isn't marrying me out of sheer ambition. I hadn't realized that...
If Sophie loves you, you can only rejoice.
She loves me now, but she will come to hate me, as I will hate her!
What entitles you to such presumption? How can you claim to know what the Lord has in store for you?
You are asked only to marry her and to have children. Listen to me, Ludwig. When the devil sends temptations, they must be turned back against him. They must be used to honor God. In the darkness of a room, aided by the image of sin itself, you will realize that the warmth of one body is the same as another's.
Father, you are teaching me something new.
Your people want you to be one of themselves, more powerful, more privileged, touched by divine providence, but still one of them. If you insist on being different, they will never forgive you, never. Wagner was driven from Munich because he is a genius. That was what made him a foreigner. He was different. Ludwig, you are one of the Lord's favored because you are more exposed to sin than others, and so you can prove more than the others can your love of God. I know from your own lips that until now you have always had the strength to resist temptation, to reject sin.
Yes.
I want you to tell me if this is still true.
Yes.
I ask you this as if in the holy sacrament of confession.
Yes.
Ego te absolvo in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Oso dire che la rottura del fidanzamento con la principessa Sophie segnò l'inizio delle nostre disgrazie. Il nostro sovrano, da quel giorno infausto, non si interessò più degli affari di Stato. Con tutto quello che succedeva nel mondo, Sua Maestà non sembrava pensare ad altro che alla costruzione di tutti quei castelli che nessuno avrebbe mai abitato. Per nostra disgrazia, il principe Otto peggiorava intanto di giorno in giorno e la regina madre cercò estremo conforto nella religione cattolica.
Ad aperire in odorem suavitatis tu autem effugare diabole appropinquabit enim judicium Dei. Ab renuncia Satane.
Ab renuncia.
Et omnibus operibus eius.
Ab renuncia.
Et omnibus pompis eius.
Ab renuncia.
Ex immunde spiritus et da loco spiritui sancto paraclito. Ego te lineo salutis in Domine nostro Iesu Christo, ut habeas vitam aeternam. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Maria, vis baptizari?
Volo.
Ego te baptizo in nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen. Amen.
Maria, vade in pace, et Deus te adiuvet.
Il nostro cuore è pieno di letizia, maestà.
Che dolore per una madre, non ha voluto essere accarezzato.
Anche a nome del nostro padre provinciale desidero esprimere il nostro compiacimento per la presenza a questa cerimonia di vostra altezza. Almeno in parte ci compensa dell'assenza di sua maestà il re e della profonda amarezza che provoca nel nostro animo il vederlo vivere sempre più appartato. In questi ultimi tempi mi sono recato più volte a cercarlo per chiedere notizie della sua salute. Molto spesso Sua Maestà si è rifiutato di ricevermi.
Raccomando Sua Maestà alle vostre preghiere.
Non dimentico mai nelle mie preghiere il nostro amato sovrano, ma devo confessare che mi causa grande imbarazzo e mi provoca profondo sgomento spiegare ai suoi sudditi cattolici quale sia il suo pensiero. Siamo malauguratamente alla vigilia di una guerra che nella migliore delle ipotesi si risolverà con il trionfo in Europa della potenza prussiana e vorremmo poter dire che il corso di queste dolorose vicende terrene alle quali, sai signori, noi siamo completamente estranei, ci spinge soltanto a cercare di rinforzare sempre di più i sacri vincoli che ci legano alla Madre Chiesa e al Sommo Pontefice. Ma il nostro sovrano non ci aiuta in questo.
Se Dio nella sua infinita misericordia mi ha accolto oggi umile serva, sono sicura che ci aiuterà. Io ho fede.
It's useless for you to wait, Father. His Majesty will not receive you.
Her Royal Highness the Queen Mother sent me here. Prince Otto is very ill.
His Majesty is ill too. His teeth are troubling him. No, believe me, Father, it's a waste of time waiting. Count Hohenstein is with His Majesty now. He arrived early this morning. He'd come from Versailles, where His Majesty sent him on an important mission. He had to wait 6 hours.
Forgive me. Tell His Majesty I was here. And tell him the reason.
Non posso aspettare un momento di più. Debbo assolutamente vedere Sua Maestà il Re. Prendo su di me ogni responsabilità. Quando sei arrivato? Alle 8 di questa mattina. E da quel momento sono stato lì fuori ad aspettare, come vostra maestà del resto sa benissimo. Ma io sto male. Il cloroformio è l'unica cosa. Riesce a farmi dormire un pochino. Ti dà fastidio l'odore? No, non fa niente. Vuoi che facciamo aprire la finestra? Ho tanto freddo. Siediti pure. Grazie, ma è necessario che io riparta stasera stessa. Ah, sì? E per dove? Per Versailles. Ho parlato col cancelliere Bismarck e devo portargli una risposta, non c'è un momento da perdere.
What is this? Who wrote it? I don't understand.
It's the letter you should write immediately to the King of Prussia. I ought not to say this, but the Chancellor himself dictated it to me.
I'm expected to write this?
To copy it and sign it. Then I will deliver it as quickly as possible.
What? What? I am to ask Wilhelm to do me the favor of accepting my kingdom as a gift?
No. You're asking the future emperor of the great new Germany to admit Bavaria as part of the Federation of Allied States.
This is not an alliance. It means handing the country over to them, becoming slaves, worse than slaves. We should be putting ourselves in the most humiliating position imaginable. Now, I can do anything, but nothing.
Slavery? Humiliation? I don't understand. People become slaves when they are defeated, taken prisoner. Defeat is humiliation. The inevitable fate of Bavaria if the country doesn't join the alliance. With one sneeze, the great new Germany could blow the kingdom of Bavaria off the map. We must face facts, sire. Bismarck's advice is sound. It would have been wiser if you had written the letter even before. Your uncle, King Wilhelm, would certainly have valued it more. But write it now, before he is proclaimed emperor in spite of us. This is the psychological moment. And there would be financial advantages, too. Yes. Bismarck led me to believe that you can count on that.
No. Not now, at least. I won't. I couldn't. I can't! No, I can't! I can't! No, I can't.
It's almost 5 o'clock. If I can leave Munich by 9, you'll know that there is no other solution. We can at least spare ourselves the effort of talking about it.
If it's true that there's no other solution, If my government feels that there is no other solution, let the government take this step.
If I were to tell your majesty what the government would like to do at this moment, your majesty would not hesitate to write this letter. But I won't use such methods. All I say is this: your majesty needs a personal alliance. An alliance among people of the same blood, the same nobility. An alliance that will bring many advantages, some of them immediately.
Let go of him. But, Your Majesty.
Otto. Don't you recognize me? It's me, Ludwig.
birthday, my dear. Happy Christmas. Happy everything. This is my present for you and for him.
No one has ever had such a beautiful present.
Our best wishes, Madame Wagner. Best wishes from all of us. From the whole world.
Play it once more, please.
Ai fini di questa difficile inchiesta e per un approfondimento delle questioni che dobbiamo risolvere, suggerisco agli onorevoli colleghi di fare una visita a tutti i castelli di Sua Maestà, nei quali soltanto il castello di Linderhof è stato da lui saltuariamente abitato. Voglio altresì ricordare che Wagner, da un pezzo lontano dalla Baviera, gravava ancora però sulle nostre casse. Se il suo teatro di Bayreuth poté essere inaugurato nell'agosto del 76 con la famosa tetralogia, ciò si deve unicamente alle sovvenzioni che con la nota avidità Wagner riuscì ad estorcere al nostro ingenuo sovrano.
He had no money, but he made no efforts to economize. On the contrary, he went on spending, giving money away, large sums for a valet with a handsome face or a slim figure, or an actor whose voice had caught his fancy.
A glooming peace this morning with it brings. The sun for sorrow will not show his head. Go hence to have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned and some punished, for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo.
Mr. Katz, oh, what can I say? Congratulations, congratulations. A great success. A very great success. I'm happy, I'm very happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very, very much. Congratulations, you were marvelous. No, you were.
Mr. Katz, from His Majesty the King.
have a message for you from His Majesty. And this. His Majesty the King had instructed me to wait upon the young actor Kainz, bringing him a gift and an invitation to spend 3 days at Linderhof Castle.
Allow me to give you a piece of advice, Herr Kainz.
for your own good. You see, the king expected to meet Romeo, not Herr Joseph Kainz. It was Romeo he invited to Linderhof. If you can manage to be Romeo, or Didier, one of your heroes, in other words, then you are sure to be a success.
Kneel before each of these crosses and shed hot tears, repenting the crime you have committed. If you can then pass happily through the horrors and dangers of the road, if the mountain does not rain avalanches down on you from its icy peaks, you will reach a bridge covered with spray as light as dust. If the bridge does not break beneath the weight of your sins, if you leave it behind you, you will see a black opening yawn in the cliff before you. Daylight has never penetrated there. Pass then through that black gap, and it will lead you to a radiant, smiling valley. But you must move through it quickly, since you are not allowed to linger where peace reigns. Oh, Rudolph, my royal ancestor, this is how your descendant must enter the territory of your empire. And thus, as you climb, you will reach the heights of the Gotthard, where the eternal lakes are, filled with waters which fall from heaven. There you will bid farewell to German soil. Another river will lead you in its rapid course to Italy, your promised land. I'll take you to the very places where your character suffered and lived. We'll follow William Tell's footsteps through Switzerland. And then to Italy. Yes. Italy, especially. No, later. We'll talk later. Be Didier again. Be silent. I could have... Ah, be silent. I too, for my misfortune, could have been born a woman.
Kennt ihr schon den neuen Ostfriesen-Witz? Groß? Ist auch nicht so schnell. Erzähl mal. Warte deine Puste lieber für später, Mensch. Mal schauen wir uns jetzt mal schön groß. Die ganz riesige Sachen.
But if he who addressed me was an honest man, full of an idiot sense of honor, if by chance I had happened to meet a heart still full of illusions, rather than not say to that honest man, I am thus, rather than receive him joyously, rather than not warn him myself, that my chaste, pure eye was mere falsehood, rather than be so false, treacherous, debased, I would have preferred to dig my grave with my own fingernails.
Go on.
You would laugh heartily if you could see yourself as my heart, that strange mirror, saw you. You were right to break it, my lady. You were there, innocent, pure, chaste. Oh, woman, what wrong was ever done you by this man of sweet and profound heart, who loved you for so long, on his knees before you?
You will become my great friend. I'll make you the sole star of my theater. You'll play the greatest dramas of all the world, of all time. All the other actors will be envious and jealous. You must expect that. But you mustn't fear it. You will be under the king's protection. The king will protect you and will spare you suffering and worry. But you must be loyal to me. I want only your loyalty. Everyone hated Wagner too. I forced him on the whole world. But Wagner betrayed my trust. I was that man with a heart still full of illusion. And ever since, I've been searching for a true friend. And now, I found him. We shall leave very soon. We shall always travel. If they will not allow me.
Who could prevent you from doing anything? You are the king and the master.
To be king is not always easy.
Then why not abdicate?
Moi, le premier de France en être le dernier. Je changerai mon sort au sort d'un braconnier. You must never address me that way again. Never! Never.
I'm very tired, Your Majesty. May I retire and sleep for a few hours?
Sleep? The sleigh's ready. Come! I'll show you my true realm. My mountains under the sun's first rays. A world of our own. Pure and uncontaminated. Think of your soul, Didier. Not of your body.
The mountain tops thunder. The little bridge trembles. But the hunter fears not the dizzying path. Boldly he strides over the icy peaks, where spring never shines, where no bough scream.
Snort. That is the poem I wanted to hear from you. The south wind has risen. Come, recite.
No. I can't. I don't feel up to it. I hate being a buffoon, acting by command. I'm an artist.
Please, just this once. I beg you.
No, I cannot.
I order you!
I cannot! It's beyond me. I'm worn out. We have been traveling for a week. I feel as if I hadn't slept the whole time. My memory fails me.
If you're tired, then rest.
Mr. Kainz declared that the letters written to him by His Majesty the King almost daily during the brief period of their friendship were stolen from him. Mr. Kainz is a liar. Mr. Kainz sold, and at a high price, the King's letters, just as he sold a number of presents he had received from His Majesty. He sold the letters in Switzerland to an agent of mine. These letters are in my possession. I believe these letters are the most undeniable evidence that His Majesty the King is not in possession of his mental faculties.
I bore everything I could as a loyal servant of the kingdom and the state, from a despot who knew no restraint in satisfying his whims. Reluctantly, I sent funds to Wagner in Bayreuth. I watched Linderhof being built and, clenching my teeth, the castle of Neuschwanstein. But in the autumn of 1877, when I realized that His Majesty had firmly determined to start building Herrenchiemsee, and that he had done everything behind my back, then I resigned.
Perché quel velo nero sul pianoforte?
L'avevo sentito dire. Il re dette ordine di velarlo a lutto quando è morto Wagner.
Ma ne è passato del tempo.
Walter! I can't see her. I can't receive her. Go! I will tell her I'm in corridor. Suffering. Oh, no, it's not. No. Go! And tell her that I'm sorry. I come to visit her as soon as I'm better. Naturally, Neuschwanstein is at her disposal. If she cares to stay, as long as she likes. I cannot see her.
Annunciatemi a Sua Maestà.
Sua Maestà sta male e non può ricevere. Sua Maestà dice che il castello è a disposizione di Vostra Maestà Imperiale per tutto il tempo che vorrà.
Rientriamo a Possanova.
Elizabeth. And then he began to cry. He had sent us out of the room, but we could still hear him. He was crying and shouting, Elizabeth, Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Elizabeth.
Carl. Adesso tocca a te.
A chi avete dato l'incarico di condurre questa inchiesta?
Al conte von Holstein, Altezza. Il conte ha sempre vissuto molto vicino a Sua Maestà, per cui il suo consiglio è di grande aiuto per noi.
Ho sempre diffidato dei favoriti. E gli ex favoriti devono essere guardati con sospetto ancora maggiore. Che parte ha il colonnello Durkheim in tutto questo? È stato sempre vicino a Ludwig fin da quando era giovane. Altezza, abbiamo pensato fosse bene mantenere più segreta possibile questa penosa situazione, per le precauzioni da prendere nel caso il nostro re sia dichiarato incapace di governare.
Come Vostra Altezza saprà, nonostante l'eccentricità e le spese scandalose fatte dal re in questi anni per i suoi castelli deserti, Ludwig è ancora molto amato dal popolo. Per di più c'è chi ha tutto l'interesse a mantenere sul trono un re che non governa.
Volete dirmi che tra queste persone c'è anche il colonnello Durkheim?
Oh, no, no. Abbiamo la massima stima del colonnello Durkheim.
E io non meno di voi. Quindi non vi dispiacerà, signori, se voglio sentire la sua opinione in merito. E penso che sia più corretto nei vostri riguardi sentirlo in vostra presenza. Chiamate il colonnello Durkheim. Il Consiglio dei Ministri, rappresentato dal conte Torring, che lei vede qui, mi offre la reggenza della Baviera, nel caso in cui fosse necessario fare abdicare il nostro sovrano Ludwig II, che, a quanto mi dicono, dà chiari segni di malattia mentale. Prego, colonnello. Naturalmente accetterei solo nel caso in cui un referto medico confermasse questa necessità. Ho la più alta opinione della sua imparzialità, colonnello. So che in molte occasioni lei ha dato prova di grande attaccamento al sovrano. Perciò vorrei sapere qual è il suo pensiero.
Io sono il primo ad ammettere che Sua Maestà in questi ultimi anni si è dimostrato sempre meno interessato agli affari di Stato. Si è rifugiato in una sorta di solitudine inquietante. Ma siamo sicuri che la sua mancanza di interesse non sia soltanto apparenza? E quelle eccentricità non vorranno essere un modo di mostrare a se stesso e al mondo intero quali libertà egli ha il diritto di concedersi. Domando scusa, Altezza, ma la mia opinione è questa. La vita privata del re è eccentrica nella misura in cui il suo governo ha voluto che fosse. Prima che si mettesse fine alle sue pazze spese per i castelli, queste furono approvate regolarmente dal tesoro. Qualcuno deve aver voluto mantenere Sua Maestà il Re occupato, diciamo, nelle sue follie. Qualcuno che in questi ultimi anni è stato molto vicino al sovrano e che ha avuto su di lui una pericolosa influenza. Ebbene, c'era stato messo dal governo.
Perdonate, Vostra Altezza, ma il colonnello Durkheim ha tutta l'aria di voler accusare il nostro governo di avere complottato contro il sovrano.
Siete stati voi a dire questo, non io. Io ho il dovere di rispondere sinceramente alla domanda che Sua Altezza mi ha rivolto. Mi rendo ben conto della gravità di quanto dichiarato, ma la conferma è nel fatto che certe tragiche misure sono state prese in considerazione prima di aver tentato di aiutare quell'infelice, se così posso dire. Il nostro sovrano sta attraversando una crisi.
Una crisi che dura da quanti anni, colonnello Durkheim? Da quanti anni? Atteniamoci ai fatti. È chiaro che il governo ha cercato di mostrarsi generoso perché vuole soprattutto evitare che scoppi uno scandalo prima che sia troppo tardi.
Se ci sarà uno scandalo, noi stiamo soltanto conducendo un'accurata indagine. Il colonnello Durkheim sarà interrogato e ripeterà le opinioni che ci ha espresso privatamente.
E ci saranno magari altri che, come lui, pensano che le responsabilità del governo siano molto più gravi di quelle del sovrano. In questo caso, caro Fistermeister, non ci resterà che dimetterci e correre da un medico. Perché se si dimostrerà che il re è perfettamente sano di mente, vorrà dire che i pazzi siamo noi.
I am Professor Bernhard von Gudden, Director of the Psychiatric Institute of Munich. After the investigation of the mental condition of His Majesty the King, this commission has reached the following conclusions. His Majesty is in an advanced stage of a mental illness, familiar to all expert alienists, paranoia. Since this illness impedes the exercise of free will, it does not allow the sovereign to concern himself with the government of his realm. This impediment will last for the rest of his life.
What? Master Holzer? Gentlemen, listen to me. If that groom manages to warn the king, our mission could be compromised.
We cannot wait until tomorrow. We must act now. Hasselschwert. How far is it from Hohenschwangau to Neuschwanstein?
It's right there. You need only 15 minutes by carriage, even with this rain.
Gentlemen, we must go at once. Remember, every minute is precious. Let's
go. They've come to arrest the king. They came from Munich. It's a plot. I managed to escape. They don't know I'm here. They who? The man came in 3 carriages. Tomorrow, maybe even tonight, they're going to come up here. Your Majesty's orders are to be disregarded. That's what Count von Holstein said.
Von Holstein? Here in Neuschwanstein?
I don't know, Your Majesty.
Von Holstein. Did you say von Holstein?
Yes, Your Majesty.
And who else is with him?
I recognized Cabinet Minister Kreisheim, Professor Gutten, Hesselschwerdt.
What do you have left?
Arrested! Oh! Oh! Maya! Maya! I want them until they're beast. I want their eyes put out. I want them shot. I shoot them myself with my own hands. Hurry! Hurry! Call the arms. I want them all arrested. Go!
Halt! Take another step and I'll shoot.
We must accompany the king to Schloss Bern.
What do you want?
His Majesty has been deposed by the Council of State, and His Royal Highness Prince Ludwig has assumed the regency. Tell the soldiers to put down their arms and have the gates open.
We have orders from the king to open fire on anyone who attempts to approach.
I have with me an official document which declares the king insane. I'm authorized to read it to you. It's an order of the Council of State.
Show them
All
your
they're doing is
official
making matters worse.
Certainly, only they will believe
You
us.
had a show. There must be some way of convincing me.
They've arrested them all. Good. You, Maya, fetch me the key to the tower. At once. If it be necessary, we climb up there. I can defend myself better. Or jump, if they try to seize me. Anything rather than what they have in mind. To keep me alive? By killing me? Like my brother? No. I will not allow them to do it. Quickly, get me the key!
The key. We don't have it, sire.
Find it! Find it at once! Go! Go!
Colonel Durkheim.
Durkheim, I've had that delegation of conspirators arrested.
I approve Your Majesty's action. But the Council of State has made that declaration. The people must be roused up against it. We will accompany Your Majesty at once to Munich. I believe we can count on the army. Your Majesty will speak to the soldiers and officers stationed at... Your Majesty, we haven't a moment to lose. We must reach Munich.
Munich? Munich. Not even a team of elephants could drag me to that city I hate.
Sire. That's the only hope of saving the situation. Unless Your Majesty prefers to leave the country. We could try to cross into the Tyrol, over the border. But afterwards, it would be very difficult to be called back. The army, the people, ask nothing better, I believe, than to rush to Your Majesty's support. But this help must be asked to them. They must be won over, and only Your Majesty's presence...
No. No. No!
No.
Does Your Majesty prefer trying to leave the country? I'm ready to help.
Don't feel like traveling. And besides, what would I do in the Tyrol? Make them leave me alone!
I've always done everything I could to be useful to Your Majesty. In the past I failed. I failed today.
Can be very useful to me. Very. I want some poison. Get me some poison. You only have to go to the pharmacy at Campton. But go. Go at once.
Your Majesty, I came here to save you, not to help you die. King's orders. By order of the King, these gentlemen must remain under close surveillance, are not to leave these rooms under any condition, and have to receive neither food nor drink, nothing.
I think there is no hope for us. And Munich is far. We are all in a trap.
I order you to send this message to the Prime Minister. Extreme speed is necessary. We are in mortal peril. The King has ordered us to be put to death. We need help as soon as possible. I want to know if you have informed the Supreme Command of the liberty taken in... Colonel Durkheim, I hope you're aware of the grave responsibility you have assumed. It will have irreparable consequences for you. Without examining our instructions, you have allowed Baron Kreilsheim, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Count Turing, the...
By His Majesty's orders, you are all free.
Do your duty. May I give you some advice? Act cautiously. His Majesty must be protected against himself.
Do you believe in the immortality of the soul, Weber?
Yes, Your Majesty. Yes, I do. But...
So do I. I believe in the immortality of the soul and the justice of God. I've read many things about materialism. It will not satisfy a man. He will not be reduced to the level of an animal. Take this. Drowning is a fine death. There is no mutilation, but to jump from a height. This too. I will write a letter. If this watch should return to the royal treasury, because of my death, they should refund 25,000 gold.
Your Majesty, I have the key. The key to the tower. I misjudged you.
Your Majesty, I have never had to perform such an unpleasant duty. For alienists have expressed their opinion on Your Majesty's health. As a result of their decision, His Highness Prince Luitpold has assumed the regency. I have been ordered to take Your Majesty to Schloss Berg this very night.
Ach.
Il mio fedele Sawar. Prego.
It has begun raining again. It will never stop. Never.
Sua Maestà dovrebbe mangiare qualcosa ora.
E che cosa dovrei mangiare, secondo lei?
Tutto. Può mangiare tutto quello che desidera, Maestà.
Niente coltelli, che strano modo di apparecchiare. Soltanto una forchetta. Da dessert. Dovrei cominciare con il dessert? Non ho fame. Ora voglio dormire.
Ma certo, Maestà, certo.
Svegliatemi a mezzanotte. Farò prima una passeggiata e poi mangerò.
Sua Maestà dovrà seguire degli orari più regolari da oggi in poi.
Certo.
Dormire la notte, mangiare alle ore prestabilite e quanto a uscire vedremo in seguito. Presto sarò io stesso a chiedere il permesso, Maestà. Molto presto.
Would like to rest now and to be left alone, if it's possible.
Of course, Your Majesty. He has behaved with truly regal courtesy and with perfect discipline. No sign of restlessness. His answers are always to the point. In all sincerity, I do not feel I can refuse His Majesty the one concession he keeps asking for. Permission to go out and stroll in the park.
It's not raining now, but look at those clouds. It's going to rain again in a minute. Apart from any other consideration, I shouldn't think it would be hard for a physician to advise against a walk in the rain.
His Majesty has a very strong constitution. Naturally, I shall advise him to wait until the weather improves. But if he insists, I am prepared to go with him myself, rather than refuse him again. Yes, I'll accompany him myself.
You've been seduced, Professor Gooden. Be careful.
Non c'è cosa più bella e più affascinante della notte. Dicono che il culto della notte, della luna, sia un culto materno. Quello del sole, del giorno, un mito virile, quindi paterno. Eppure il mistero, la grandiosità della notte, sono stati sempre per me lo sconfinato sublime regno degli eroi. E quindi anche quello della ragione.
Poor Dr. Gooden. Forced to study me from morning to night, from night to morning. But I am an enigma. I want to remain an enigma. Forever. To others, and also to myself.
Eccellente.
Veramente squisito.
Delizioso.
Si è tentati di
Veramente delizioso, dottor Miller.
Sono le 7:30. Il dottor Gooden aveva detto che non sarebbe rimasto fuori più di un'ora. A che ora sono usciti?
Li ho visti. Non erano ancora le 6. Mandate qualcuno a cercarli. Hanno certo preso il sentiero del lago. Fatevi dare delle torce, presto! Chi è andato con loro?
Erano soli. Il professor Gooden non ha assolutamente voluto che gli infermieri li accompagnassero. Sua Maestà oggi sembrava molto calma.
Ma è una pazzia! È da incoscienti! Dottor Müller, devo insegnarvelo io che i pazzi sono anche furbi? Ah. Andate, presto! E appena li trovate mandate qualcuno ad avvertirci. Su, presto!
Allora? Conte von Holstein.
Bringt Fackeln! Befehl von Graf von Holstein! Bildet die ganze Mannschaft zum Schloss! Hier nach oben! Fachkostüme! Weit ran! Soll man jetzt nicht genug? Hier! Das Leben! Schnell!
Wire Munich at once. Say, the king has disappeared. I'm going to look for him too. If I find them, I'll fire a shot in the air to let you know. The king committed suicide. In order to do that, he had to kill Dr. Gooden.
Portate i corpi al castello, immediatamente.